Hi guys, Billy from Rundug again. So I said earlier that I was going to put a post up about structure. There's quite a lot involved in structure, so I'm going to keep it as basic as I can, but kind of highlight the points that are important for me. Now, these are pretty much all my own ideas. I don't mind if somebody's got a different opinion to it, but this is my view, my ideas. So I'll talk you through how I think things should be with the structure, why I feel like that, and also the role of the neck. That's been coming into discussion a few times recently as well. So let's start with the neck. For me, the neck does a lot more than most people naturally think. One of the important roles for the neck for me, and what I try and think about when I'm getting the sizing and everything right, is I want the neck to hold the harness forward. Now I know that sounds a bit silly, or strange being a better word, but I want it to hold it forward, so when the dog's pushing into the harness, he's pushing in from his whole body. He's using all his chest and his back, and laterally he's using this back end. I want all of this to be driving the dog, not just that. So in the neck, I bring the neck slightly forward, so it's holding all this main area. When I'm talking about harnesses, I kind of think about it the same way as a bit of a car. This area here, for me, is the chassis. The dog pivots here. This, to me, is like a sub-chassis. So the neck holds that harness part forward. That way the dog can really get into it. You know, he can really fit into this area really well and use all his force to drive it forward. There's not too much pressure on individual parts. The whole thing is working together as a whole. So that, ideally, is pretty much where I would want to see the neck on our harnesses. I'm going to show you a different example. Now you can see here, looking at it from the front, see that's up slightly, pulling it forward, whereas this, all that pressure is right bang on those shoulders. The rest of it's not doing anything. All that force is on those shoulders, so that's taken. Sometimes you'll see dogs coming across the line, they're all shaky and all that kind of stuff. All that exertion is just bang on those shoulders there. So I don't want that. I want it pulled slightly up so the dog can use all its force everywhere around the back and the shoulders and the back and all the rest of it to be pushing that part forward. So you can see that one's slightly too big. This one, for me, is perfect. That's where I want it. Just a little bit raised onto the neck. Now, we're going to talk about the rest of the body and how that structure will affect how the harness sits. You want a good structure that's well balanced all the way through. The X wants to be in the right place. There doesn't want to be too much pull or pressure on individual parts of the body. You want it to be balanced out all the way across the body. It affects a lot of things, and it also affects harness twist and rotation. And I'll discuss why I think that is myself. So if you've got good structure here, if it's too long, you'll get a lot of harness twist. And I know that because I've run in harnesses that are too long there, and I see it straight away. And it'll also hang off to the side here terribly. If you've got good structure all the way through, that harness should pretty much stay in place. And that's a really good thing for a dog that's moving about as much as they do on those ganglines. You know, so like I say, you get that structure right and you're on a bit of a winner. So we want this angle here to be coming down here, not too long. We don't want it too sharp because then you've got too much vertical structure. A good example of excellent structure, anybody coming from Scotland's aware of the Forth Rail Bridge. Anybody that's not, have a wee look at it. Fantastic piece of work, well over 100 years old, made of steel, and it's still in place, still in operation. So we've got good structure here. The X is in the right place. There's no pressure there. It's right pretty much in the middle of the back. Ideally for me, for the X, it should be bang pretty much central between here and the end of the harness. There shouldn't be any real pressure there. the back arches. You can't do anything about that with a fixed rigid design like this that doesn't pivot in the middle, which is to do with our new design that we might be coming out with. So yeah, so that's where that's how I like it to be anyway. So let's just spin this around and I'll give you an example of something that I think isn't quite as effective. And I'll just go through a few different points. Now you're probably looking at this, to be honest, my own thoughts are when I see this kind of design, please don't be swayed by colours and all that kind of thing. Try and keep an open mind. It's all about structure. This looks a lot sleeker in a lot of ways. It's not as angular as the other one, it looks a lot sleeker, but it's flawed, it's quite heavily flawed, and I'll explain why. So this angle here is too long. Everything is on here. There's no structure here to hold it in place. Now the problem when you have it too long here is you get harness roll. You get it dead easy. And there's nothing to stop it. There's no framework to hold that, to stop that harness twist. So when people talk about harness twist and it riding up under the armpit and all the rest of it, the way to cut down on that is by having good vertical structure as well as lateral structure. So the other problem, and it all goes together, like I say, every single part of the harness, it should work perfectly together. If one piece is too long, then it affects something else. So like I said earlier, with this one, all that pressure is going to be direct on those shoulder blades. The rest of it's not doing anything at all. It's just hanging there. If this X is here, my issue with that, and I know some of you are probably thinking of this already, with a lower pull point, you've got harness load right on the back of the lower back there, right on those hips. And a lot of people want to avoid that as well. If you've got a higher pull point, it's not doing anything at all really. So for me that wants to be up a little bit. With this length here, it's hard to move it up because there's nothing, as soon as the dog bends it's going to affect this part of the harness massively. You'll have this pulling in really bad and you'll have really bad distortion down here as well. So I think that's it.
Rubbing on the hips. Rubbing on the hips.
Oh yes, sorry, thank you, Gil. So the other problem, which again you probably noticed this, I hope you did, if this lower web is coming like across here, this is a moving part. For our harnesses, we don't want anything that's going across a moving part. This bit here wants to be clear, there's nothing coming across the shoulder blades here, and this is coming up over there and round there ideally. With this here, you've got that webbing covering a moving part. You're going to have potential rub there. So anything that's going to cause potential rub, I steer clear of straight away. If I'm doing a fresh design, all that stuff is really firm in my mind, and I don't go any further with it. So that's a no-no there. So like I say, ideally it wants to be coming over there. So this for me is an example of poor structure. Obviously blowing my own trumpet a little bit here, but this for me is an example of good structure. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've got any questions, great. If not, whatever. It's barbecue day. Thank you.